right, so we're sitting here with Michael Sena from Toolbox, and we are just doing a quick series on Toolbox, kind of integrations and information about some of the greatest tools coming out of the Consensys group. And Michael has graciously agreed to give us some time to answer a couple quick questions. Michael, can you just give us a quick intro, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure, yeah, thanks Katie. Hi everyone, my name's Michael, I'm co-founder of Toolbox. We started the project about 9 or so months ago. Before that, I was a co-founder of Viewport, where I was working on that for like 2.5 years. So I joined Consensys in around early 2016 and have been trying to solve problems related to blockchain identity and user data management for a while.
Awesome. So can you tell us just at a high level what Toolbox is?
Of course, yeah. So Toolbox is a user-centric data store. It provides a way for application developers to store user-generated data and content with the users and not need to run a backend themselves. So you could think like if you're an app developer and you want to add profiles or single sign-on or peer-to-peer messaging or decentralized comments or just distributed storage to your app, you would just store the data on IPFS and store the hashes in the user's Toolbox. And so that lets people and users basically take their data with them from application to application and also control who can see the data, what they can see, when they can see it. So it's just a better way. It's like a next generation framework to build consumer applications.
Awesome. Yeah, you kind of hinted at this, but can you just kind of specifically call out, sounds like you're serving both dapp developers and users. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about what the biggest problem Toolbox solves for each of those groups is?
Yeah, so we mainly solve problems for developers, and in solving problems for developers can deliver better outcomes to users. And so really what that means is developers today, if you're building a distributed application, whether that's an app with a smart contract that lives on a blockchain or just an application with a distributed services architecture, one of the core components of things that you actually want to distribute is user data, because that's like the piece that is kind of a core tenet of Web3 is giving users control of their information, not storing it on a centralized database where it can be sold to advertisers and like exploited from users, but rather reducing your own liability as an app developer by storing that data in a distributed manner in the user's control. And so we serve developers that have those ambitions. And right now, there's really not that many ways to store user data on the distributed web and not on your server. You could store the data on IPFS, which is an open data storage network, which we use at Toolbox. But when you store data on IPFS, it generates a content hash. And those content hashes need to be stored somewhere. And where you store the content hash is ultimately like where you store the data in a logical sense. And so in Toolbox, developers can store these content hashes directly with the users on the distributed web. And again, users can access and control their Toolbox with their Ethereum key. So Toolbox just naturally works wherever users are already using the blockchain. So like if they have MetaMask, if they have Coinbase Wallet or Trust or any of the modern signers, you can just use Toolbox. And so it basically allows developers, it provides developers a suite of APIs that replace like their backend specifically for things like sign-on, profiles, messaging, and storage. And if we do that, the outcome of all of that is now as a user, I have all of my data, associated to me in my distributed user data cloud, aka Toolbox, and I can now get better service from my providers. Like I can now present a more complete picture of who I am to any application or service, and then they can provide me with a more customized experience that is really around better offers or a better level of service or greater personalization. Like eventually, yeah, sure, everyone likes to talk about if I'm a user and I control my data, like I could sell it. And while we think that that might be a use case, we don't actually see that much value coming directly from the sale of an individual's data, but rather the types of services and experiences that can be unlocked when users do own and control their data.
Got it. Sounds great. So if I'm new, if I'm coming into this hackathon, I'm just getting started, but it sounds like I definitely want to integrate with you guys. How do I get started? Where and how do I get started with 3box?
So hopefully this is pretty easy. We've been working pretty hard at this point. We are completely open source. So of course you can inspect all of our code at our GitHub repo, which is github.com/3box. You can find our general README on the 3box/3box page on GitHub. And that will provide you links to all the required, all the other pieces of our architecture. So it will point you to 3box.js, which is our JavaScript client that enables web applications to access our 4 APIs, and exposes those for you, has documentation on how to use the APIs. Also, our Discord is completely open. So we work in Discord all day, every day. Community members pop in there and ask us questions about integrations or just generally to chat. And you can reach that at chat.3box.io. And that will just redirect you to our Discord. And we're in the process actually now of putting out what we're calling the 3box Builder series. And it's going to be a series of integration guides on how to specifically use our APIs. Because while the documentation, it describes the APIs well, this will provide an even greater level of detail on how to actually build it in your application quickly. So those will be coming out soon, and we'll list those on our GitHub as well.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys have a lot of resources, and the Discord sounds like a great place for people to get help. Would you say that that's the best place for people who do have questions about integrations or anything specifically that they don't understand to reach you guys or other members of the 3box team?
Yeah, we're really responsive on there. So if you or any of your team members have questions, the best way to do that is to just jump in there. And yeah, Discord's a lot easier than Slack too, so you don't need to create a username per Discord. It's just like you create one Discord account and you can jump between all different projects. And so it's pretty easy to join, and asking a question is as easy as typing it in the box.
Awesome. And so a last question for you, specifically for kind of people that are hacking nights and weekends, maybe have a day job, but are kind of dipping their toe in the water of becoming an entrepreneur in blockchain or Web3. Why is 3box a good fit for them? Like what makes 3box compelling to integrate with for them?
Yeah, so I think that anyone that's building a distributed consumer application and you want to have actual real users, you should use 3box. It basically does all of the things that users have become accustomed to on Web 2 in Web 3. And so like things like single sign-on where you have a profile that you log in with, or you don't want to see hex addresses in your app's UI and you rather want to see real humans and people with profiles, or you want to let people interact with each other, whether that's by creating a discussion or comment board, a group chat, DMs, all sort of photo streams, like news feeds, like all of these things require managing and interacting with user data. And so 3box is the easiest way and the best place to store that today. And so the goal is ultimately to, with apps that integrate 3box, we believe that they'll have more users and will just generally be more attractive to normal people. And so, helping Web3 break from the stereotypes of poor usability and like hex addresses and all these things that plague the ecosystem, we're working on solving.
Yeah, that's awesome. And personally, having worked with you guys a couple times over the course of the last year, I can vouch for how much you guys care about usability and kind of intuitiveness of the design of your entire ecosystem that you're working on. So kudos to you for continuing to fight for changing the stereotype that you're talking about and continuing to fight for normal people to be part of Web3.
It's crazy that we have to fight for it, but it's the appropriate time. I mean, we probably couldn't have built the stuff before some of the fundamental infrastructure had been laid, like before IPFS and OrbitDB were built. But now that we are, and now that developers have demonstrated an appetite to actually provide experiences that attract real users, probably due to crypto winter, but probably for other reasons as well. Yeah, we're happy to provide this sorts of service to people now.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Michael.
Thanks, Katie. Happy to help.